download and upload more than ever before with an ultra-fast fiber connection. With 3 simple steps, you can be the one with an SLT fiber optic connection. Visit slt.lk.
Tonight, our own creation. Sri Lankan duo builds the country's first ever satellite.
I hope that Bird3 satellite will be successful.
My final aim is learning something and making the satellite for the country.
The government mulling the recommencement of shipping to Tamil Nadu from Kankasanture and Talaimana. This Saturday, the 16th of February 2019.
From Ada Derana, this is Ada Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Kanayaka. Let's start you off with your local stories. Shipping routes from Kankasanture and Talaimana to Tamil Nadu of India may soon be reopened, as Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that discussions towards that end were held on Thursday. Addressing a function held in Mannar yesterday, the Premier also added that the government had also discussions with the Indian government over a highway linking Mannar, Vavuniya and Trincomalee.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe attended a function organised by Minister of Industry and Commerce, Resettlement of Protracted Displaced Persons and Cooperative Development Rishad Badiuddin at the Cultural Centre in Mannar yesterday.
We're all engaged in one journey. We should succeed in that journey and go for the next election. We opened the south to the world and even discussed recently that we should open the north, Jaffna Peninsula and Mannar to the world. We decided to develop the Palali airport to meet international standards, especially to develop and widen the runway to facilitate Airbus 320. Yesterday, we had discussions to recommence shipping to Tamil Nadu from Kankasanture and Talaimana. We had discussions with the Indian government to build a highway joining Mannar, Vavuniya and Trincomalee. We also had discussions to release some more land that are under the occupation of the army at present. We recommenced our work and the results will be evident during the next few months. We worked in silence so far and was shouted at. We will show results from March and by May they will further improve.
In the meantime, the Premier joined a review meeting on housing resettlement and development at the District Secretariat in Mannar. He also joined a development review meeting in the Mullaitivu district as well. In the meantime, Premier Wickremesinghe met with Arun Siddhartha, who was in the spotlight recently after expressing views on northern life and politics.
Now, it's a proud moment for Sri Lankans as 2 of the nation's students in Japan have built the first ever satellite by a Sri Lankan, dubbing it Ravana 1. Ravana 1 was officially released to Japanese media yesterday. The satellite is to be handed over to the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency on Monday.
Tharindu Dayaratna, an electrical and electronics engineer of the University of Peradeniya and a research engineer at the Arthur C. Clarke Institute for Modern Technologies, built the Ravana 1 satellite along with Dulani Chamika Vithanage, a mechatronics engineer from the same institution. Ravana 1 is a cube satellite designed and built in Kyushu Institute of Technology in Japan. The satellite is 1000 cubic centimeters in size and weighs 1.1 kilograms.
I'm doing the ADCS subsystem in Bird3 CubeSat. Through this Bird3 project, I'm learning a lot about the space engineering and even the electronics and the programming. Studying about space engineering was a dream, and then actually now I'm studying about that, so I'm very happy about that. I hope that Bird3 satellite will be successful.
So my part in Bird3 is communication subsystem. It's a very important subsystem, and if communication subsystem fails, satellite fails. My final aim is learning something and making the satellite for the country.
The satellite was officially released to the Japanese media yesterday. It is expected to fulfill 5 missions, with capturing pictures of Sri Lanka and the surrounding region being among them. Another is active attitude stabilization, which ensures that satellite's attitude is stable under influence of external talks. Accordingly, the Ravana 1 will be handed over to the Japan Space Exploration Agency on the 18th and will later be sent to the International Space Station on the 17th of April through the assistance of Cygnus 1 spacecraft from the United States. Ravana 1 is expected to orbit 400 kilometers away from the Earth. The minimum lifespan of Ravana 1 is 1.5 years, but is believed to be active for up to 5 years.
Now, the new website of the Heart to Heart Trust Fund was launched at the Sri Jayawardhanapura General Hospital under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena today. The fund, established under the Sri Jayawardhanapura Hospital, provides financial assistance to financially impoverished heart patients across the island. During the event, the President pledged to donate a collective sum of 50 million rupees, or more like 5 million rupees, from the Presidential Fund and the Fund of the Buddhist Society in Polonnaruwa. Opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa is confident that the United National Party will not be able to put up much of a fight in the looming provincial council elections. Addressing a public gathering in Veyangoda this morning, the opposition leader pointed to the results in the last local authorities election as a litmus test.
The Veyangoda weekly fair was vested to the public by leader of the opposition Mahinda Rajapaksa this morning. At the event, the opposition leader launched the official website of the Attanagalla Pradeshiya Sabha.
Both the President and the Prime Minister still declare open projects which we commenced. I'm upset because we could have completed the Kandy Highway about 2 years ago. What we can see today is very slow progress in development. This government boasts that they did a lot of things, but they are invisible. They're not holding provincial council elections and disregard calls of the people. The reason is they're scared of elections. Just like the local authorities elections, the UNP will lose all the provinces and we will win them. Recently, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said that there is a requirement for a new constitution to ensure Tamil people's right to exist. It was the war heroes who safeguarded their right to exist on the 18th and 19th of May of 2009 under our governance and no one else.
Now, Attorney at Law Shabdi Gavellapilli, representing singers Amal Pereira and his son Nadimal Pereira, is hopeful of the return of the duo to Sri Lanka without being subjected to judicial proceedings in the United Arab Emirates. Singers Amal and Nadimal Pereira were among 32 people arrested in Dubai recently, along with drug lord Markandure Madush, over allegations relating to the use and possession of heroin. The father-son duo is currently under remand custody until the 28th of this month. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka clarified that it was not directly involved in negotiations with the sale of subsidiaries and sub-subsidiaries and investment properties of ETI Finance Limited. Issuing a media communique yesterday, the regulator highlighted that the approval granted by the CBSL was to transfer investment properties and subsidiaries of ETI Finance, considering the best interest of the depositors based on proposals submitted by the company, which did not include sale of shares to ETIF. It added that the only proposal submitted by the ETIF was from Blue Summit Capital Management Pte Limited, which is a foreign entity, and as such, possibility of permitting a local investor at the time approving the said transaction does not arise.
The CBSL released a media communique yesterday highlighting that they only granted the approval for the transfer of investment properties and subsidiaries of ETI Finance upon being satisfied that all possible steps to assess the sources of funds were taken, and at no point of time extended its assistance to an investor to buy the assets of ETIF. The communique went on to say that the CBSL was not able to obtain credible information pertaining to the involvement of an internationally blacklisted entity in the transaction at the time of granting approval or at the time of receiving funds in tranches. In the case of Swarnamahal Financial Services PLC, the CBSL noted that conditional approval was granted by the Monetary Board of CBSL for a separate proposal submitted by the company. The CBSL added that if in the event the current buyer is unable to infuse the balance $5 million, ETIF would retain SFSP. However, ETIF is already considering alternatives for reviving SFSP. The CBSL reiterated that proceeds of the already concluded part of the $54 million transaction was utilized to repay 20% of the depositors, amounting to 6.4 billion rupees, and that all funds were directly received by ETIF. CBSL noted that it had at no time received any funds involved in this transaction, as mentioned in the article in question. It added that the transaction was between ETIF and Blue Summit Capital Management Pte Limited, and CBSL was involved to ensure that there was a reasonable valuation from the perspective of the depositors. Meanwhile, leader of the National Freedom Front, MP Vimal Weerawansa, says that chairman of Laika Mobile Subhaskar Naliraja, who allegedly laundered money and financed the LTTE, is now buying companies and assets in Sri Lanka. In a letter addressed to the CBSL, Weerawansa went on to say that it is the responsibility of the regulator to unveil further information pertaining to the businessman's transactions. Weerawansa added that the trust placed on CBSL has been demolished by allowing such persons to buy companies like EAP Group of companies to the tune of $75 million. The letter went on to say that the transaction is illegal and violates rules and regulations, as a foreign investor cannot hold a media license.
Moving on with other local stories, a Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Cheng Shiyuan, believes that since the launch of China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, cooperation between the two countries have strengthened and tangible benefits are being reaped by the people. Speaking at an event in Colombo last evening, the Chinese ambassador went on to say that China will continue to support the economic and social development of Sri Lanka while enhancing bilateral ties.
The inauguration ceremony of the third Chinese Cultural Fair, organized by the Chinese Embassy, was held in Colombo yesterday. The event was presided over by Minister of Megapolis and Western Development Partly Champika Ranawaka and Chinese Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Cheng Shiyuan.
Both China and Sri Lanka have long histories and splendid cultures. Closer bond between the people is the key to enhancing state-to-state relations. China and Sri Lanka are good neighbors, good friends, and good partners. Since the launch of Belt and Road Initiative, the pragmatic exchange and cooperation in various fields between China and Sri Lanka have been enhanced to the new height, in line with the principles of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits. Some large joint projects have reaped the early harvest, which has delivered the tangible benefits to our two countries and our two peoples. China will continue to support the economic and social development of Sri Lanka within capacity. I am convinced that Sri Lanka would make even outstanding achievements in the following days, and Colombo will become a world metropolitan city.
I wish to emphasize the importance of working together with our Asian countries on mutual beneficial trade and cultural relationships. This will undoubtedly enhance the economic growth not only of a single community or a country, but unprecedented growth in the region we live.
Let's take a look at some of the stories making news across Sri Lanka.
A leopard which habited the Stony Flive estate in the area of Dimbula of Hatton died after being caught in a trap during early hours of this morning. The big cat is approximately 4 feet in length and 3 feet in height. A belt of ammunition with 48 live bullets used for a multi-purpose machine gun and a cap bearing the emblem of Terror Group, the LTTE, were discovered from the waste disposal terminal of the Anuradhapura Municipal Council. Workers of the facility founded the items in question, and preliminary investigations have revealed that they were in the garbage collection from the areas of Third Step and Pubudusara of Anuradhapura. The results of the radiocarbon dating test conducted by a lab in the US on the bone samples recovered from the mass grave in Mana have been received early this morning. Dr. Saminda Rajapaksa, the judicial medical officer who is in charge of the excavations, said that samples from the skeletal remains of 6 humans were sent to Beta Analytics, which is based in Miami, Florida, and that the reports for 5 of them have returned. He stated that the relevant reports will be presented to the Mana Magistrates Court on Wednesday the 20th before they are released to media. A total of 323 human skeletal remains have been found so far, including the remains of about 28 children, with excavations still underway.
Now, the Vice President of the World Bank for the Asian region visited the country recently, and we got the details coming up on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Other Derana 24.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the Vice President of the World Bank for South Asia region, Hartwig Schaefer, sees potential in Sri Lanka's economic growth and believes the island nation has the capacity to add 20% to its current growth rate. Schaefer, however, said that extra growth is achievable if all the women who can contribute to the economy get involved. Addressing an exhibition and an award ceremony for women photographers at the Colombo Municipal Council, he added that change in the labour force would be the biggest move towards being a middle-income country.
Vice President of the World Bank for South Asia region, Hartwig Schaefer, concluded his 3-day visit to Sri Lanka yesterday. During the visit, Schaefer met with President Maithripala Sirisena, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, Minister of Finance Mangala Samaravira, State Minister of Finance Eran Wickramaratne, and many others. During the discussions with the ministers, the World Bank representative noted that Inland Revenue Act, the Fuel Pricing Formula, National Audit Act and the Active Liability Management Act are among noteworthy reform achievements. Challenges of stabilizing financial system, risk management and building fiscal resilience were also topics of discussion. World Bank's Vice President for South Asia region participated in an exhibition and an award ceremony for women photographers at the Colombo Municipal Council.
Sri Lanka's labour force is 36.8%, but the Honourable Prime Minister's desire is to make sure that this increases by 40% by 2020. So we're trying to take every measure and every step to strengthen and increase the female labour market. We're looking at areas of the hindrances that would stop women from getting into the labour force.
Access to finance, access to land and title, cultural stigma, or other things that prevent women from actually joining the labour force is something that is the norm across the world. Sri Lanka could have growth 20% higher than where we are right now if all the women who can contribute and participate in the labour force were participating in the labour force. That's enormous. Just imagine a 20% increase in per capita income across the nation. That will be the biggest step to move to upper middle income country status. Women participation in the labour force is an absolute must-do. Every project that we have anywhere in the world, we are looking at how does it encourage gender equality? How does it help us reach that goal of more women, all women participating in the labour force? I'm very privileged and very honored that you have me here as your guest. I'll take with me another story of women who successfully entered a man's world in the labour force.
A former Roman Catholic cardinal has been defrocked after historic sexual abuse allegations. Theodore McCarrick is the most high-profile Catholic figure to be dismissed from the priesthood in modern times. U.S. church officials said allegations he had sexually assaulted a teenager 5 decades ago were credible. 88-year-old McCarrick had previously resigned, but said he had no recollection of the alleged abuse. McCarrick was the Archbishop of Washington, D.C. from 2001 to 2006. He's among hundreds of members of the clergy accused of sexually abusing children over several decades, and his dismissal comes days before the Vatican hosts a summit on preventing child abuse. We got details of one of the most enthralling test matches you're ever likely to come across on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Other Derana 24.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.